Hey everyone! So, if you're wanting to apply early action to MIT this year, the deadline to request an interview is coming up soon. It's less than a month away on October 20th. So, I thought I'd give you some quick pointers about what to expect, how much the interview actually matters, and how to prepare. First, what to expect. So, interviews happen in or around your hometown with an alumni volunteer. There are over 4,500 of them all over the world. If they don't happen to be in your area, we will sometimes do a Skype interview. So I used to actually do Skype interviews for the Kansas City suburbs because I'm from Missouri. So interviews last about an hour, give or take. Sometimes they can go shorter, like 30 minutes, if the interviewer feels like they got the information that they needed. That's not a bad thing. Similarly, sometimes they can go longer if the interviewer is just chatty or they're enjoying the conversation, you have time to keep going. That's not a bad thing either. The length of time is not indicative of how good of an interview you're having. So plan for about an hour, but don't worry if it goes over or under. They happen in a public place like a coffee shop or a restaurant or the library or Skype. And it's because it's not supposed to be an intimidating interrogation. It's supposed to feel really informal, like an informal conversation. If they ask you to come to their house or their office, or they ask you to bring your resume or test scores, that should not happen, and you should tell us immediately because, again, this is supposed to be very informal. Because it's informal, you don't have to dress up too much. So personally, when I was an interviewer, I really didn't care what you wore, but it's probably better to err on the side of being presentable depending on the interviewer you get. So I would say wear what you would wear to like a school awards ceremony. Maybe a button down. You definitely don't need a suit. You can also wear something that you want to talk about. So you can wear a fun or nerdy tie or earrings or something like that. Your clothes can be a prop or a talking point, but don't feel obligated to wear something crazy. You will not lose points for dressing normally, or you won't necessarily gain bonus points for wearing something wacky. All right, moving on to the next point, which is how much do the interviews actually matter? For MIT, they're optional, but we really, really recommend them, and it's because of a couple reasons. One, the interview is a two-way street. It's not just about the alum interviewing you, but it's also a chance for you to interview them. You get to talk one-on-one with somebody who went through MIT. You can ask them questions about their experience, learn more about MIT to see if it's really a good fit for you. And it's also, I would say, the one part of the application that can really only help you. It can't really hurt you. So last year, 1% of the people who applied who said, nope, I'm not going to do an interview, they got into MIT, only 1%. But almost 11% of the people who did do an interview or tried to get an interview and couldn't and got excused, they got accepted. So 1% versus 11%. It's hard to represent who you are on paper. So we have things like letters of recommendations and the interview where you can show more of your personality, helps us get to know you as a human and everything. Alumni interviewers are also your cheerleaders. They're volunteering their free time to do this because they want to talk about MIT and they want to see students from their communities coming to MIT. So they overwhelmingly give very positive reports back to us. Alumni interviewers can also contextualize your accomplishments and they can advocate for you better because they're from your community. I've seen a lot of applications where the test scores and the classes are kind of weak, but the interview is really, really positive. And I personally can't recall an application where the test scores and the classes and the letters of rec were all really, really good, but then, there was a negative interview that brought it all down. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but that's just very, very rare. Interviewers in general are rooting for you. Okay, so the question that I get the most about interviews is, but what if I bomb it? What if everything else on my application looks great, but the interview is the one thing that tarnishes it? Will that negatively impact me? So interviews go poorly for a lot of reasons. Maybe you're nervous or maybe you're having an off day. Everyone at admissions has been interviewed before, so we all know that it can feel intimidating and it's hard to be yourself, so we keep that in mind. We're reading all of these in the context of your whole application, so if everything else looks great, especially if your teacher letters of recommendation look great, we're going to know that you were probably just nervous, and we'll be pretty forgiving of that. Also, interviewees have a much more negative perception of how it went down than the interviewer. Sometimes people really do have bad interviews, meaning that they're arrogant, they don't have anything to say, they're only applying because their parent is making them, and so they don't actually have any reasons for why they want to come here. But it is usually echoed throughout their application, in their letters of recommendation, in their lack of activities. So that is really the only instance that I can think of where an interview would hurt you. But in that scenario, the whole application is kind of hurting. So I'm not going to leave without giving you guys some tips. So first is to request an interview as soon as possible. Seriously, do not wait until the last minute. It's kind of stressful as an interviewer to be getting all of these last minute requests right before the deadline. So if you know you're going to apply to MIT, just go ahead and reach out and get that interview scheduled. Be appreciative, don't be rude to your interviewer, all that goes without saying, but they're taking their free time to do this, so try to be as prompt as you can responding to emails, trying to set up a time to do the interview, all that stuff. And it doesn't hurt to send a quick little thank you to them after your interview. You don't have to go over the top with it, just a quick little thanks. I would also think about maybe 1 or 2 questions that you would ask your interviewer, because remember, this is a chance for you to talk to someone who experienced this place and get their unfiltered, authentic, real answers to something like what was your favorite part, or what is something that you would change, or what was the hardest part. Whatever you actually want to know, this is your chance to just get a real answer from someone. And then finally, relax. Seriously, I'm not lying when I say that this is the part of the application where you can relax. Get it scheduled, but relax. If you have any questions about the interview or about any other part of the application process or about MIT in general, leave them in the comments below. And good luck. Relax.